Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We said at the beginning of this portal window that Jonathan Smith and the Michigan State Spartans would probably be one of the more active programs in the portal over the next couple of weeks. And that's exactly what we have seen late last night, landing the commitment from former Stephen F. Austin interior defensive lineman Brandon Lane, who was largely one of the more coveted interior defensive linemen that was available in the portal. Multiple Power 5 programs interested in this kid. And this was the position group that we identified for Michigan State. Hey, we got to make sure we address heading into 2024. Landing the commitment from Brandon Lane, absolutely massive. Want to talk about Brandon Lane, talk about some other targets and commitments Michigan State is going after in the transfer portal. Before we get into it, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It was a blast watching this Michigan State spring game, recapping it. The amount of support y'all continue to show truly does mean a lot. We'll keep you guys as updated as possible with what Michigan State is doing in the portal. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Brandon Lane. And I want to start with, there was just so many Power 5 programs looking for these kind of bodies, 6'5", 300 pounds. And you're talking about a interior defensive lineman that is not necessarily going to stuff the stat sheet like other players on this defense will. But you look at Brandon Lane, you look at the true value that he brings to this Michigan State defense. He's going to let everyone else cook around him. This is one of those guys on the inside that wins at the point of attack. He can eat double teams up. This is that kind of defensive lineman that if you're an off-ball linebacker, Jordan Hall, Cal Halliday, that this is the guy you want to play behind because he's not letting guys get up to you. He's letting you play clean downhill. Brandon Lane's not going to finish this season with 10 sacks, 15 tackles for a loss, but he's going to allow guys like Jordan Hall to have much better years in 2024. You take a look at some of the numbers. This was a guy that, over 14 run stops at Stephen F. Austin last year, average depth of tackle, almost 2 yards, wins at the point of attack, doesn't necessarily give you all that pass rush juice, but you talk about winning on first and second down. Like Brandon Lane is going to be that guy. And I think what's most impressive is this is probably the biggest target for Michigan State to get after in terms of position groups. We left that spring game, especially with guys like Barrow Jr., Derek Carmen hitting the portal and saying, we got to make sure we have this defensive line right heading into 2024. Make no mistake about it. Jonathan Smith, he wants to build this program from the line of scrimmage out. And landing a guy like Brandon Lane makes you feel much better about where Michigan State is along the line of scrimmage heading into 2024. And I don't want to stop right there because another target that if I'm Jonathan Smith in Michigan State and I'm saying we want to add more bodies, it's not enough to just get Brandon Lane. We want to make sure we're deep and solid along the line of scrimmage. CJ West coming from Kent State would make a lot of sense as well. Is from Illinois coming out of high school. He's largely looking at Big Ten programs, Wisconsin, Indiana. I believe he's going to take a visit to Michigan as well. This is another one of those guys that you want. And another one kind of similar to Brandon Lane where he's not necessarily going to fill the stat sheet up, but this is another one of those guys that makes the rest of the defense play at a much higher level. He's built like a fire hydrant. And I'm not trying to get at him, just 6'2", 315. A guy that wins at the point of attack. He's phenomenal against the run, 24 run stops, an average depth of tackle of 0.9 yards down the field. Also had a 10% pass rush win rate from the inside. I think CJ West is one of the better interior defensive linemen that's available in the portal. Would love Jonathan Smith in this Michigan State program to throw their hat in the ring at CJ West as well. And then the last guy I want to talk about is a commitment we haven't gotten a chance to cover yet. Kon Adams coming over from UMass. This is a really interesting commitment for me. And I think once Jalen Berger hit the transfer portal, Nathan Carter is going to be a guy. Tulis as a true freshman, he looks like he can be a very solid football player. You look at Michigan State, what they want on offense. You go back to Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, the two-headed monster, Damian Martinez to Sean Fenwick. They want to run the football a lot. And if you want to run the football a lot, you want multiple running backs that you trust toting the rock. A guy like Kon Adams, really interesting from the state of Ohio. Well, let's start with what he did at UMass, 1,000 yards, 41 10-plus yard carries. You look at what Oregon State did so well last year. It was those gash runs, those 10-plus yard runs. Kon Adams kind of specializes in that. 41 of them is a big, big number. 74 missed tackles forced. This is a guy that just does not let the first level defender miss or not let the first defender make plays on him. And he's built like an animal. I mean, 5'10", 205, really, really thick lower half. This one makes a ton of sense in this Michigan State offense. And then you kind of talk about, all right, what's he going to do in this Michigan State offense? You want to know some other teams that were in on a guy like Kon Adams. Ohio State was. Ohio State wanted this kid out of the spring transfer portal window, even though they had Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. What does that tell you? Ohio State liked this kid a lot. And so I think this is a really good get for Michigan State, a guy that is going to get a lot of carries for this offense. And you look at him and Nate Carter and say, that's a pretty good running back duo heading into 2024. My biggest takeaway from this Michigan State team after the spring game was some of the names they've lost in the portal. If you can get the line of scrimmage right over the next couple of weeks in the portal, this is going to be a team that can win a lot of football games. I think it's a very gettable schedule. We'll talk about what Michigan State continues to do in the portal. Wanted to hop on, give a little update on what they're up to. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas again. Y'all know I have a blast talking the transfer portal. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.